What's going on, guys? Dylan DeJesus here. Thank you for joining us for another video. We thought it was time to go ahead and bring you guys back a full episode of Ask DCF. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Unless you have past experience with things like an airbrush or potentially maybe some spray paint, because there is similarities, I definitely recommend just starting out doing your first few projects with a paintbrush. You can absolutely do some amazing custom work with only a paintbrush. There's a lot of artists who have made their living not using an airbrush or anything like that, strictly paintbrush work. So go ahead and just get a feel for everything, start working with the acrylic leather paints and whatnot, and just get a feel for customizing on shoes maybe for the first time with a paintbrush. So the story behind how I really got into sneakers was throughout most of high school, I was very simple with my footwear. I basically wore things like Vans, slip-ons, and whatnot, and my girlfriend at the time, who now happens to be my wife, Brittany, told me it was time to update my shoe game, so she put me onto some cool Nike SB Dunks and whatnot, and the first pair that really caught my eye was the Nike SB Chrome Ball Lows. I was just really drawn to the black and teal colorway, so those really caught my eye. I picked up a pair of those and the Chrome Ball Highs, and just basically fell in love with sneakers from there. My answer to this question will really always be try to find the style of art that really inspires you. For me, it's going to be tattooing, so anytime, I'm kind of in a creative rut, I always love to just go look up tattoo references and some of my favorite tattoo artists, just go kind of get lost on their Instagram. And if you can't find the style of art that really inspires you, go ahead and find the custom sneaker artist that really inspires you. Whoever that may be, they probably have a really cool style that you would like to emulate. And it's not to say that you then have to go and copy them, but just go kind of get lost on their Instagram. Look at some of their work, find pieces of their art that you think they did really well, and go ahead and get inspired by it. There's nothing wrong with getting inspired by other artists. You don't have to go and copy them, but you can go and put your own spin on stuff. So just kind of find some stuff that's gonna get your creative juices flowing. Look at another artist's page and say, I really love how that pair of shoes turned out, or that project that they did turned out. Let me go ahead and try and recreate that with my own twist on it. My go-to transfer tape is the Green Star Lay Flat Classic Transfer Tape. There's so many options out there. A lot of the other ones are going to be a lot more rigid, and they have things like grids on there, and that's totally nice and awesome. The reason I really like the Green Star transfer tape is because it basically acts just like masking tape. It's super easy to rip. The reason that I love it the most is because it's so easy to rip, I can kind of easily rip off just enough to show kind of the edges of the image that I'm trying to lay down. So I just have the most control over this, whereas if you go ahead and transfer your stencil onto some of the more rigid, gridded transfer tape, now it's a little bit harder for you to kind of control where it's going to be going and finesse the reveal of that kind of stencil underneath, because you can't peel away as easy. So the Green Star Lay Flat Classic Transfer Tape is definitely going to be my go-to, just for how easy it is to work with. This is one that definitely gets asked basically on a daily basis, so it's a great question. If you're using Too Soft and you're going to be airbrushing it, which is definitely what I recommend anyway, since if you're able to airbrush onto fabrics and mesh, you're going to keep that material even softer. But for the most part, you do not need to add any Too Thin, because the Too Soft is going to thin out your paint enough. Now, depending on how old your paint is, or sometimes you need to let the mixture speak to you, kind of test it out, make sure your paint is thin enough. But for the most part, you do not need to add any additional Too Thin. If you're already mixing Too Soft into your paint, you are now officially airbrush ready. So some of the downfalls to doing this is that it's definitely going to fade over time, and if you're working on different materials other than mesh, it can definitely run kind of when your feet perspirate within the sneaker. You can definitely have The markers fade a lot quicker over time if you're working on something like some prime knit or other fabrics like that. So that's why I don't really recommend them. It's a little bit harder to control your paint flow also. Once you start to use up a little bit more of that newly fresh marker, it's not gonna work as consistently for you over time. So you just have a lot more control when you work with things like paint and airbrushes and paintbrushes. You're just able to have a little bit more of a consistent flow throughout the entire process. Absolutely, 100% without a doubt. Similar to how somebody might say, should you start a YouTube in 2020? A lot of people ask us that. Absolutely, there is no better time to start than now. YouTube and custom sneakers are only going to be growing more and more. There's a show produced by MTV about custom sneakers now. More on that a little bit later in the video, but both of these things, YouTube and custom sneakers, are only going to be growing. And you might be wondering, what do you do to just start out? This is another question that we get all the time. What I really recommend doing is grabbing as many of your old shoes as possible, painting them in styles that really interest you and doing in the future. Then after you do that, go ahead and take any of your family members, your sibling shoes, ask them if you can customize another theme for them. Try to do a different theme. Try to find and really develop your style. After you've asked your family, now ask any of your friends or co-workers, whatever the case may be, if you can do some custom work for them. Don't worry about the money to start. Just build out your portfolio. A lot of people reach out to us. They only have 1 or 2 posts or shoes on their portfolio. You don't look legit yet. Nobody's really interested in handing over a lot of money to you. So build out that portfolio on Instagram or your website. Don't post just 1 post of every project or custom shoe you do. Go ahead and make somewhere between 3 to 5 posts of every single project, every single shoe that you're working on. Shoot it from different angles, do videos versus pictures. There's so much content that you need to be getting out of every single project. You're just gonna build out that portfolio. You're all of a sudden gonna look way more legit to prospective clients. And there is just new clients finding out about custom sneakers every single day. No matter how mainstream it may seem to you potentially watching this video, I've been doing it for 8 years. It seems super mainstream to me, but I meet people every single day just finding out about this entire world of custom shoes. So absolutely, the most important thing is just get started. So I am super hyped for the debut of this series. It is a super cool idea. This is something that we have talked about forever wanting to do here on the DCF YouTube channel. It's very similar to the show Ink Master that you guys hear us reference all the time. It's a tattooing competition, but anytime custom sneakers become a little bit more involved in the mainstream or in pop culture, it is phenomenal for us. So I'm so hyped about this series. We did get reached out to be a contestant on the show. I told them I was a little bit more interested in being a judge. I then went on to do a full interview with them that I thought went really well, and I thought there was a decent chance we were gonna be able to be a judge on the show. But they told us basically they wanted to go a little bit more of a celebrity route for the judges, essentially. Totally makes sense, but I am just super hyped for the debut of the show. Shout out to all of the participants. I know there's some other people here on YouTube that do stuff that you guys recognize, so definitely go ahead and check out that show if you haven't already. But just the concept behind this is something we have always wanted to do, kind of bring that battle aspect, that contest aspect to custom sneakers. It's something we would love to do here on the channel in the future in a different way. Obviously, you guys have seen us try to do this kind of aspect through things like our contests, reviewing your customs, kind of try to bring a name to potentially some people who don't have as large of a following, because there is so many talented people out there. So definitely something we want to try to bring to the DCF YouTube channel in the future. Thank you guys for joining us for another one of these Ask DCF segments. Sometimes we like to mix in a question here or there without some of the videos. You guys have hopefully seen our little Ask DCF segment during some videos. So if you are interested in getting another question answered in a future video, make sure you go ahead and comment it down below with the hashtag AskDCF. Thank you guys for joining us for this video. Hopefully you learned something new or whatnot. Go ahead and give this video a like if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you guys in that next video.